I am on the ship on Wonder of the Seas. No, I am not on the ship. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But this is part 3 of my series on what it's like to sail on Royal Caribbean's Wonder of the Seas. You're watching Cruising with Dee. Okay, so why am I sitting here at home in freezing Tennessee in my bathing suit and my throw instead of on the ship? I'll tell you why. I erased my footage by accident. I'm trying to recreate it for you. Kind of won't matter because I have all of the B-roll and the footage that I did shoot on the ship and at my day at St. Martin. So it's going to be all right. But I was very, very disappointed when I sat down yesterday in order to edit the video for you and realized that the video was gone. And if you want some bonus content at the end, if you're interested on like the process of how these videos are made and like what happened after I roll my credits at the end, I will have a little bit of bonus if you're interested in all of that. But let's talk about my last 3 days on the ship. We went to St. Martin for our last port day, and that was on day 5. Day 6 and day 7 were my last 2 sea days as we went from St. Martin all the way back to Port Canaveral. That was lovely to have 2 sea days to kind of relax right at the end of the trip. We're also going to talk about disembarkation and how I got back to the airport because I know a lot of you are interested in that. I will tell you about that at the end. So let's get started. On day 5 of the trip, we woke up to sun. Finally, Philippe had starting to move on and it was a beautiful day. It wasn't raining. So excited to have a port day that was sunny and bright. So I woke up, quickly got a lox and bagels down at Park Cafe, and I went out to look for my excursion. Now this excursion was not a Royal Caribbean excursion. Instead, I went on an excursion that was put together by the Shore Excursions group. I wanted to take something that the ship didn't offer, which was basically spending all of my time on the French side of the island. If you're not familiar with St. Martin, there's the Dutch side and the French side of the island. Now this was my very first time in St. Martin, but I knew when I came back, and I assume I will be back because I cruise so much, it was very close by to Philipsburg, which is the Dutch main town, and it's not very far from the cruise port. A lot harder to get over to the French side of the island, and I had a long day in St. Martin and I knew I'd have time, so I decided to go and book an independent excursion. And I was happy that it was a small van with a maximum of 20 people instead of a bus tour. I really, at this point in my cruising career, I don't like bus tours and I try to stay away from them. So I ended up picking this excursion. It was called the Sights, Shopping, and Sand Excursion, and it was about 4.5 hours. The first thing I had to do was find the excursion. Usually it's pretty easy. You'll have a map and they're not too far away from the cruise port. And in this instance, they even had like a white tent. They said it was just right outside where the port was. So I was supposed to be there at 9:05 for a 9:15 departure. And I had my instructions and I was looking for 2 taxi circles and right past it a white tent. So I'm walking and there it is. I see 2 taxi circles and there's a white tent. What could be easier? And I go over there and there is nobody there. It is not the right white tent and it is not the right taxi circles. So at this point I'm lost and I have to ask someone and they're like, oh, it's all the way down there. So I walk really quickly and I get myself down to where we're actually going to be leaving from. I am the last person there. It is now 9:16, a minute after we were supposed to leave. And so I get on the bus and, everybody gives me one of those like applauses, like you idiot. And I'm like, I was lost. But turns out I was not the worst lost person, nor was I the last person to get on the bus. There were 2 people after me who were even more lost than I was. So about 5 minutes later, they showed up and we did leave. And I've shown you the correct tent. So if you ever do this, you know how to get to the excursions that take off from that location. First thing we did is we drive through Philipsburg. It was a very quick drive-by, lots of shopping there. Looks like a wonderful port to spend the day. It wasn't a big part of this tour. Then we went over to the French side of the island. It was kind of funny. The tour guide was all like, okay, everybody have your passports ready for the border crossing. And I'm like, I'm a very prepared person. I'm like, passport? I don't have my passport. No one said bring a passport. I just have my ID and my cruise card. And it was a joke, people. It was a joke. So half of the bus did not have their passports, and we were sort of in a mini panic. And then he's like, no, you don't need your passport, even though we are going to there is a crossing and we're going over to the French side. So, haha, very funny. Then we got to Marigot, which is the main city on the French side of the island. And it's right on the water, although the cars lined the water in parking. So it's not the most scenic area, but right by there are lots of little stalls that have food. And you can go shopping, but wanting to get a little something for lunch. My tour guide, who was wonderful, Nell, he had a favorite place that served salted cod and johnny cake and also conch fritters. So I just wanted the johnny cake and to try like the local specialty. It was quite good. I did notice that Nell's johnny cake with salted cod had 3 times more cod than mine, but then he does bring the business in, and it was very inexpensive. About $6 for a lemonade and the salted cod and johnny cake. So lots of good food values on the French side of the island. So after that, we went to Orient Beach, which I was very excited to go to. A very famous beach. It used to be a lot more built up until Hurricane Irma came in 2017 and did quite a bit of destruction. For instance, there wasn't a paved road. We had to take a bumpy, sandy road to get there. A lot of the restaurants had been destroyed and they had been replaced by more like shack type restaurants. They were still very nice. And it was just not as kept up probably as well as before the hurricane. We had a lot of that sour gum seaweed that has been plaguing the Caribbean, and it was on the beach, wasn't cleared off. So it wasn't quite as pretty a beach because of that, but the setting with the mountains and just an absolutely gorgeous area. There were lounge chairs with an umbrella for $10. And a wonderful, like a world-class restaurant that has a great reputation right there. So we use that as like our base of operations. Some people did eat there and the food looked great, but I just didn't want to have a big meal because I knew I was going to Giovanni's back on the ship that evening. But just a great spot. The water was warm. And like I said, an absolutely gorgeous setting. Something to know about Orient Beach is that it is right next to a nude beach. So if that bothers you, you have children, you might not want to go. Although the day we were there, no one was sunbathing in the nude. But it is something to be aware of. After that, we headed back. It was kind of a long drive. We had a lot of traffic on the way there because some bridge had been shut down. The bus was supposed to stop in Phillipsburg for people who wanted to get off to shop, but nobody in my van did. So I spent some time in the port area, which I really, really enjoyed because I knew that was our last port before we were going to be heading back to Port Canaveral. I got back to the ship right about 2:45, just enough time to go up to the Windjammer and have like a little late bite since my Giovanni's reservation was later in the evening. And so I had some of the Asian Indian food. I really like that sort of cuisine, and it was quite good. And the Windjammer on that hour on a port day was not busy at all, and I enjoyed it much, much more than my first visit to the Windjammer. After that, I hung out a little bit in the pool area because it was nice and non-crowded, again, being a port day, and it was sunny. And I got myself a lime and coconut non-alcoholic drink. The lime and coconut bar is right up by the pool area, and this is their signature drink. You can get an alcoholic one or a non-alcoholic one. It comes in this sort of cute little bucket souvenir cup, and I quite enjoyed it. And I took my drink and I went up to the back of the ship. 15 and 16 has a little area with a bar, and it's right by the Ultimate Abyss entrance. And back there you have a perfect view of everything. You don't have a big glass partition. You can kind of hang on the railing and look at a sail away or anything. And so I found my like sea spot for someone who didn't have a balcony. And I really, really enjoyed that spot for the beautiful sail away from St. Martin. Now, there's a group there, and everyone was like kind of had scoped the spot out just like I had. And it was a fun group. We were hoping for some pier runners, and we did get 2, but it was all too civilized. Like a cart came and very nicely drove them up to the ship. And also we saw some people leaving the ship with their luggage. We don't know what was going on with that, if they were made to leave or if there was an emergency. But that was the only pier action we had right before the gorgeous sail away. The sun was going down. It was beautiful. I highly recommend this area, especially if you don't have a balcony and are looking for beautiful ocean views on Wonder of the Seas. I went to Giovanni's for dinner. This was another of the restaurants I wanted to try on my unlimited dining plan. And it was very good. One thing, they have very large portions because everything is meant to be shared, sort of family style. That was a little difficult being a solo traveler. But I ended up getting the caprese salad, huge portion. The spaghetti carbonara, I tried to get a small portion for an appetizer, didn't work, and I didn't like it. Kind of a gloppy sauce and not a lot of flavor. And I had the filet mignon, which was divine. I thought it was even better than chops, perfectly cooked. For my dessert, everything looked good, so I asked the waiter what he recommended. He recommended the panna cotta, and it was absolutely excellent, probably the best panna cotta I have ever had. So before Giovanni's, actually, I had a show that night. I had the tap show, which I had reservations for prior to getting on the ship. Overall, a great show. You have to like tap, or you have to like the stomp type of performance. There was one tap dancer who was amazing. But I have to warn you, there is a contortionist in this show, and I literally could not watch him perform. I don't know if it's because of my joints always being painful with the rheumatoid arthritis, but I couldn't watch. So I was like this for his portions of the show. So just a warning, if you don't like contortionists, either it's not the show for you, or you can go and just do this little bit like I did. So that was before dinner. And then after dinner, because of the earlier storm and the cancellation of the Aqua show Intense, I had a late Aqua show that night. And so I finally got to see Intense, and it was a really good show. Incredible talent in the diving and synchronized swimming. Very interesting, very unique for a ship, and I did enjoy it. After that, a little bit of time in the casino. I did not have to go to bed early because the next day was a sea day, and so I did not. Day 6, a sea day. Now, I have 2 sea days here, day 6 and 7. I'm not going to tell you everything I did because some of it you've already seen in part 1 when I talked about the first day on the ship. So if I'm going up to the solarium or I'm going up to the pool area to catch the sun, I'm relaxing. I've done that. You can see what that's like. I will say that it is harder to get a lounge chair by the pools than it is by the solarium. So day 6, I got no breakfast because I woke up late, and dry cappuccino, and I waited because I knew I wanted to go to Johnny Rockets for lunch. Now, I haven't spent a lot of time in the Boardwalk area of the ship. That's kind of the Carnival area. There's a carousel, and it's kind of like being on a boardwalk, and Johnny Rockets. So I wanted to try it again on my unlimited dining plan. And I waited for a table for a little while there. I did, was no reservations. I actually met another solo traveler on the line, and we started to talk, and so we had lunch together. And I had the chili cheese fries, which brings me back to my youth, something I haven't had in a really long time. I love their burgers. I got a number 12, which has got like a little spice to it. No shakes for me, just like it's just too much food. I love Johnny Rockets. It's just got that old-fashioned feel. I haven't been to Johnny Rockets in years, and I was glad it was on the ship. Now, something we haven't talked about, but I used a lot the last 2 days. This is the cup that you get when you have one of the drink packages, and this gives you unlimited sodas at the freestyle machines. I really enjoy going and getting a Diet Dr. Pepper, a Cherry Diet Dr. Pepper, or no caffeine Coke, and they have Coke products, which I love. So that's just something I just kind of wanted to share. I did do some shopping my last 2 sea days. As I mentioned, I'm not a big shopping girl, but I did get this great soft Royal Caribbean t-shirt. I like the t-shirts they have, and I only wear soft stuff because of the rheumatoid arthritis. So I got a ship model of Wonder of the Seas. I love these ship models. And you can see it's a little actual replica of the ship. I have a couple of these, and I'm going to get a couple more. I want to do something fun with my studio with those. I wandered over to the Aqua Theater, which is on the end of the boardwalk, and there's a Sexiest Man contest. I'm like, what am I, on Carnival here? I thought that stuff only happened on Carnival. It looked like a lot of fun. I didn't stay to see it. I heard a 93-year-old man won, so like good on him. So they do some of those Carnival-like things on Royal Caribbean as well. So I know I said I wasn't going to repeat things I talked about on days 1 and 2, but I have to tell this story. I went back to the Great Big Hat to see the country trio play again. 4 of us line danced, a whole 4 people, but it was a lot of fun. 2 of the people who I met there were Kim and Philip, a lovely engaged couple from North Carolina. We talked and just enjoyed meeting each other. After that, I got dressed. It was the final formal night, and I was going to go to the MDR since I had not tried it yet for any meal because of the unlimited dining plan. But I did want to try it out and see what it was all about. And so it's huge, and there's all these people everywhere. And I walk in and I sit down, great, and they give me a table for 4, so a little awkward. I'm all by myself. And then who sits next to me out of all the people on the ship? Kim and Philip from North Carolina, who I had just met. And so we kind of had dinner together, and it was really fun and really lovely. And then after that, since we're all into country music, we decided to go up to the Mason Jar to listen to the country music, and there was some dancing, and that place is packed. It's just such a great bar with music. As for the main dining room experience, I had the French onion soup, which was okay. I had a salad, which was more fruit than salad, not quite what I expected. And I had the lobster, and I did purchase the second lobster tail, which annoyed me because if you're on the limited dining plan and you're not using that night to go to one of the more expensive restaurants, you think they could throw you a second lobster tail for no additional charge. But I really wanted to have two, so I paid $16.95. It's only $5 extra on Carnival for that second lobster tail, so I did notice that. But the lobster tails were very good. They were well cooked, and they were larger than the ones that I have been getting on Carnival, and I appreciated that. Finally, for dinner, I had the baked Alaska, which was very, very good. And just enjoy it. It's not kind of dessert I ever have except when I'm on a cruise ship. My show for the evening was the Effectors Show. And this is like the superhero show. It has a ton of special effects, and I loved it. It was like my favorite show on the ship. I know I'm a little bit of a geek and I come from a fine family of geeks and nerds, but I was surprised because I thought it would not be my favorite show, but I loved it. I loved the cast. I loved the energy of the show. The special effects were out of this world, and I really wish I had time to go and see the show again. It was that good. My favorite show out of everything I saw on the ship, and that includes the Aqua show and the ice show. After Effectors, I went up to the Schooner's Bar, and I got one of my few drinks on the ship for the week. I got a chocolate martini. Big fan of chocolate martinis. This was not as good as the chocolate martinis I was getting on the Venezia a couple months ago, but it was delicious. And this is from the Schooner's Bar, which was up one floor above the Promenade on 5. This was on deck 6. They had the disco party after that, and I talked about the loud volume of a lot of things in my second part of this series, but I have to talk about it a little bit again because at Intense, at the Aqua show, blaring. Now by this time I knew to bring, I have like earplugs that I use in case there's noise in the next room, but I've been using earplugs for all the entertainment on Royal Caribbean because it is that loud. Intense was way too loud. It was very loud at Effectors. The disco party again was turned way up to the point that I only stayed for a little while. This was an ongoing problem for me, and I don't have this problem on the Carnival ships, and I don't know if it's like this through all of Royal Caribbean ships or if right now the sound engineer is a little bit deaf, but it is too much. And actually I got several warnings on my Apple Watch about it being over 90 decibels. That really should not happen. So just one of my complaints about the ship and the entertainment was how loud everything is. It just needs to be properly mixed and at a proper sound level. So after my chocolate martini and the disco party, I went back to my room, and it was so sad because my departure information was waiting for me. For this trip, I decided to try Royal Caribbean's transportation from the port to the airport. It was very inexpensive, $34.99 a person, and I had never done this actually. I usually take an Uber, but I just was by myself, so it made the most economic sense to do that. And we'll talk about that when I talk about disembarkation at the end of the day, but there was my instructions on how to do it and my baggage tags, which was group 45, which was fine because that was the group to take the shuttles. These are shuttles for people who had flights after 2 o'clock, and my flight was at 2:15. So always sad when you get that departure information, just one sea day left to go. Day 7, it was another beautiful sunny day. I got a breakfast sandwich, very good, at Park Cafe. By then, everyone had discovered Park Cafe, and it was quite crowded. So I think you get the benefit of people not having discovered it for the first half of the cruise, and it gets busier and busier as time goes on. So then I took the Zumba class at the Aqua Theater, and this was great, and I wish they would do all of their fitness classes in the morning at the Aqua Theater. Someone told me they actually do more of them there instead of at Bolero's, but because of Philippe and the tropical storm situation, they couldn't do it. And it was so nice to be out in the Aqua Theater, out in the open air, having this great Zumba class, wonderful Zumba and teacher. Zumba is one of the ways I stay fit all year long. One of my strategies for the last day on any cruise ship is to pack early. The earlier you get packed, the nicer the rest of the day is going to be because you don't have it hanging over your head. So I did that after I got back to my room and packed everything. And that was it. I didn't have to worry about it for the rest of the day. I went up and I spent some time in the pool deck again, just getting that beautiful sun that I had missed for the rest of the trip. In the afternoon, I worked on my video for a while. I grabbed some pizza at Sorrento's and my freestyle drink. There were no lines, of course, at that hour. And something I don't think I've mentioned, there were 6,507 passengers on the ship, so we were very full this week. And I do think that influenced how crowded, especially the evening entertainment and parties, were for my particular sailing. Shopping Guy has a big raffle the very last day. It's 5 o'clock. You have to be there if you spend $50 per ticket, and I spent $100. I went to the raffle. It was a lot of fun. They gave away one package, like a $500 gift, and then a smaller thing. And I kind of wish for all the people that were there, they did like some more t-shirts and a couple more freebies would have been nice, because those are the people that are spending money in your stores, and it would be nice to give them a couple more chances to win. For my final evening, I had dinner at 5 o'clock at Izumi Hibachi. This was the only time I could get a reservation, so I don't like to eat that early, but I took it. And it was okay. It was not my favorite hibachi that I have had on a ship. I love the one they have on the Carnival Mardi Gras. That's my favorite. This one, and I think it was really affected by the fact that it was a family, including 2 very small children. And so the grandparents, the children, and it was just one couple and me. And the energy was different. We had a good hibachi chef. His name was Roy. Did a great job, but I think, the whole thing got affected by the whole family and children dynamic. Food was quite good. Did not like, though, they had a very basic salad for the appetizer and a very basic mochi for dessert, where on the Carnival Hibachi, if you get a chance to go, they have like a bento box of like 6 different tastes of dessert. It's absolutely outstanding. That was a bit disappointing, but I had the filet mignon and the lobster, a combo. It's a $15 charge for this restaurant if you have the unlimited dining plan. So that was my final meal on the ship. After I had the canceled ice show, been moved to the final night. I had reservations for the earlier one, and I really loved the ice show. Probably my second favorite of all of the different shows on the ship. I did appreciate how Royal Caribbean tries to have so many different things that would appeal to a lot of different people. And I loved the ice show. It was beautiful. It's great talent. They had a lot of digital backgrounds that were well used for this particular show. And they take you through the 4 seasons. So it's not really a story, but it's like a very lovely way to present the ice skaters and the ice dancers. That was kind of it. I had a couple of hours before I wanted to go to bed. I wandered around. I kind of wanted to say goodbye to the ocean, and it was pretty much impossible. I could have gone out to the wings by the solarium, but it was a little windy for that. So I had wanted to go up to the back of the ship where I had seen the sail away for St. Martin, but it was completely blocked off. And I just had no place to go to just kind of be out in the ocean at night, which if I'd had a balcony, I could have done. I was up at the pool deck for a little bit, and it was very empty, and I kind of enjoyed that, just being out in the open. And that was my final evening on the ship. Of course, disembarkation day, next morning, wake-up call is going to be really early. Mine was at 7:20 because we had to be out of the room at 8, and I wanted to get a quick breakfast, which I did, again, at Park Cafe, which by this time was quite busy, and I didn't have to go all the way up, which I didn't want to be using the elevators as the early people were leaving the ship. I just wanted to walk up and down the 1 flight of stairs to easily get my breakfast that morning. I had an 8:30 a.m. debarkation time in group 45, and the one weird thing was I didn't know where I was supposed to go and wait. It was not clear from the information I was given 2 nights before. When you are disembarking on Wonder of the Seas, they have these electronic boards that will tell you where your waiting area is. And mine was the MDR on 5. So I sat there, and again, it was a little confusing. They didn't have like loudspeaker announcements as to when your group was leaving. So once they called 47, I figured they'd called 45, and I left the ship. Very easy disembarkation. So you just kind of walk off, at least this morning, and you just kind of snake down the disembarkation ramps. No waiting whatsoever. You grab your luggage, and then you go through immigration. And immigration on this ship is another one of those biometric ones. So you don't even have to take your passport out unless you get flagged. So you're just walking through, and they take your picture, which is a little bit Big Brother, but I mean, I kind of really liked it because it makes disembarking so easy. So I don't know, maybe if you like had some other picture somewhere, coming out with giant shopping bags from Diamonds International or something, they'd flag you for a customs inspection. But I've never been stopped, and I just love how easy it is to walk right off the ship because of how easy that biometric data disembarkation is. So you get out of the terminal, and there, just slightly to the left, was a lady with a sign, and all of the Royal Caribbean shuttle buses lined up. There's a little table. You give them your room number. They tell you what bus color you go on. I was on the green bus, and that was it. And it was so easy. And even though this was for flights after 2 o'clock, I was at the airport by 10 o'clock. Now, I understand they have to build extra time in case there were problems with customs or traffic. So there was no problem whatsoever. And I got to the airport quite early. Had plenty of time. Very long lines at MCO Orlando when you are going through TSA, but I had TSA pre, and even the TSA lines, although they were long, they said the wait time was about 10 minutes. TSA pre, you just walked right on through. I had no trouble very, very quickly to my TSA security. So then I had a lot of time, and so I decided to go spend 4 hours at the Delta Sky Club, and it was not very busy. It was easy and pleasant. I was able to do some work. You know, I kind of like always add up how much I'm spending if I stay in the terminal for 4 hours, because I have to spend, at the moment, I have the Platinum card, which is $50 per stay. I added it all up, and I only spent $14 more than I would have spent if I'd stayed in the terminal, because I got some espresso coffees, I got like lunch, I had some sodas, and all that's very expensive at the airport. So it was $14 more than had I just hung out in the terminal for 4 hours. Plus, I got a quiet place to work and a good Wi-Fi connection. So for me, it was worth it. That was my trip on Royal Caribbean's beautiful Wonder of the Seas. I enjoyed it immensely. I think in some ways I'm still a Carnival girl, because I really do love the parties and the atmosphere, and the cruise director is just, it goes into my vibe. I really do enjoy that. However, I do think overall the specialty restaurants on Royal Caribbean were much better. It's like a little mini city. There's a lot going on, and I enjoyed that different feel for the ship. I would definitely take Royal Caribbean again. Thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed this series, please be sure to hit the subscribe button. Make sure you have your notifications on. I have lots more content coming up. Also, hit the like. If you've made it this far, you must like it, right? So please hit the like button, and I would appreciate all of that as I continue to grow my channel. Finally, if you're very interested in some of the process of going through making this series of video and how that all works, I'm going to run my credits, but I'm going to have a little bonus content after the credits roll. So thank you for joining me. You've been watching Cruising with Dee. So you're probably wondering, how did I lose the initial video that I filmed on the ship for my last part of this series on the Wonder of the Seas? Well, let me tell you what happened. One of the things that's a problem for me as I go on and build my channel and do more and more video is I have a 1 terabyte iPad in which I do everything. I film on my iPhone, and then I use my iPad for editing. I have very bad eyesight. I cannot edit on an iPhone. And I have the problem that even with a terabyte and sending things over to the cloud, I end up with, I just have so much material that it's not enough. I can't keep things local. And I also bring a small hard drive that I can download things that I'm not going to use right away. And somehow in that transfer process, I ended up losing this video. I think I thought it was a duplicate of something else. So one of the things I'm looking at, because of my eyesight, and also just because I can keep a lot more stuff local and makes editing and everything faster for me, is I'm looking at getting a Mac. So I would like to take an Apple Mac with me. I can get some more upgraded software for editing, better for my eyesight, and I can get like a 4 terabyte hard drive, which will really, really help me with not having to download stuff while I'm off on my trips. I can wait until I get home. I'll have that much more space. So that is what happened. So here I am freezing. Well, I would be freezing. I've got, the top of my bathing suit on and my throw. I actually bought this in St. Thomas at that tourist trap I told you about, which I really actually enjoyed up on Mountaintop. So it was like $20, but I thought I would wear my whole bathing suit to get in the mood. It was way too cold. So here I am in my fuzzy socks and my yoga pants, because the magic of video, right? Like you can like fake these things, and that is what I am doing here. And another thing is I do like to tape these kind of right in the moment when I can, but I take very good notes. So I had my notes for recreating the content. I also had all of my printed cruise compasses, because it's just the easiest way for me to remember and go back on what happened on which day. So I hope they don't go away, because I really rely on them. And I also do something called Cruise Critic, where I will do live blogging, writing as I go along. There's a great community over there, and they've been really good to me, and I enjoy the various boards for the various ships, and I will do a live blog as I'm going on the trip. So if you're from Cruise Critic and you're here watching this video, I want to say hello. The next video on my Royal Caribbean will be on the specialty restaurants, all of it put together, and what I thought. I tried them all on the unlimited dining plan, and I also just got something up on the room. So if you're interested in more details on the neighborhood view interior, also called the Central Park View interior, I have the video up, and I will link to that here. So thank you for joining me again. I will see you soon.